Hi everyone, I'm Amy. I'm a manifestation and relationship mentor, and this channel is all about merging spirituality and psychology so that you can manifest a relationship. And today we have Agnes from her channel, and Agnes has been a really great mentor to me over the years. So we thought it would be a really, really good idea to do another collaboration video. I think this is our fourth or fifth now. And today we're going to be sort of unpacking the inner child. And I know a lot of people that I speak to, I don't know if it's the same with you, that are resistant to working with the inner child, that it's not really necessary to work with the inner child. But if you're anything like me, you might have gone through your relationships with this underlying feeling of not being chosen and not being good enough. So today's conversation is going to be why that might be and exactly what you can do about it so that you can start meeting your own needs, so that you can start loving yourself more and feel a lot more safer and a lot more comfortable in relationships. So yeah, let's dive into that then. So Agnes has got lots and lots of content on inner child. You do inner child meditations as well. So what's your experience been with working with your inner child? Were you resistant to it? I know I was.
Yeah, I just thought, oh, goodness me, I don't want to do that. I just would just not be interested in it, would avoid it, would think, is that really relevant? I just want to fix this issue with this person, this guy that I'm with. I'm not really interested in going back and looking at my relationship with, my parents or whatever. And it's over the years that when you're doing manifesting, you you realize that you keep defaulting back to the same patterns, which is feeling abandoned, feeling not good enough, feeling insecure, feeling that if you don't get love from an external source, that you are going to die. It is a feeling of, oh my goodness, I'm going to die, when you're in the middle of that abandonment feeling. So yeah, I highly resisted it. And I think you can manifest without doing inner child work, but I think you can't maintain it, that manifestation, especially in relationships, if you don't eventually go and deal with the inner child. So you default back to it again and again, going back to your old state of unlovedness, unwantedness, not good enoughness, if I think you don't do the inner child work.
And I would agree with that. And I was totally resistant to inner child work. I did not want to look there. I didn't, even though I knew that a lot of the toxic patterns, a lot of the unworthiness, the not good enough, the not feeling chosen came from that. And, as I said to you before, Agnes, it felt like, come here and let me love you so that you can go away.
Yeah.
So you can stop sabotaging my relationships. Let me deal with you. And actually, when I thought about that and when I processed how I felt about that part of me, I noticed that that was exactly how my parents treated me. Come here, let me spend a little bit of time with you so that you go away.
Yes.
And I started treating myself like that. And, when I looked at my relationship history, particularly with my marriage, for example, I didn't feel chosen in my marriage. I didn't feel good enough, even though the relationship lasted 15 years.
Yeah.
I still didn't feel chosen or good enough. And I was never really settled in that relationship. And when I look back now, I can see how the idea of not feeling chosen when I was a child, because obviously my parents worked, my dad was particularly unavailable, and emotionally my needs weren't met. So those abandonment wounds, those not being good enough wounds, the not feeling chosen wounds came from that. And I'd sort of pasted that over my relationships, and in my current relationship I was doing it as well. And even when I was given attention, I would think, well, he's only doing this so that I go away. And it was always that idea in the back of my mind that I wasn't chosen. And even when I was chosen, it wasn't landing.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't who I was identified as being. I wasn't identifying as being the person that was chosen, because I've got that much evidence to suggest that that wasn't true.
Mm.
And it really did do a number on my relationships. And, you know, when you're going around thinking you're not good enough, or thinking that, oh, I'm not gonna get chosen, then of course the relationship that you want becomes unavailable to you. Because even if that relationship did show up now, are you really in a position to accept it fully? Probably not. And then the self-sabotaging comes in, because then this belief of I'm not chosen becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you begin to act like somebody who's not chosen, and you begin to manifest situations which will result in you not being chosen.
Yes.
And the reason why I'd sort of picked this topic today was because a lot of my clients come to me with an underlying belief of I am not chosen. This person is not going to choose me.
Yeah.
But I would invite you to ask yourself, you know, where are you not choosing you? Where are you thinking and feeling that the love that you crave, the being good enough that you crave, is going to come from the outside of you? So I don't know whether that's your experience in your relationships as well, from that underlying belief system of, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to get chosen, this person's going to leave me.
Yes, this person's going to leave me, and no matter what I do, it's never enough. You know, that was a big one for me, and feeling second best because they would choose somebody else first and then I would be left. So it was, it's really painful, that stuff. And I know a lot of our viewers, yours and mine, go through this, and it's a real process if you can not paste over the top of it an addiction to shove it down, and you can allow your emotions to come up and process the abandonment and all of that. I think it is the most wonderful freeing work that people can do, because once you understand your body's like a suitcase, and then you have a lot of stored emotions in the suitcase, if you can release that, open the suitcase and let them out, you are clearing not only what's coming up between you and your current partner, or you and the person you want to be with, but also you are doing a lot of deeper work and clearing from the father, from the mother, the issues that you had back then, which, as you said, the needs were unmet. So I think you're going from a childlike state to a more mature state on the topic of love and romantic love, because you're having to let go of this whole notion that love needs to come from that relationship, and that relationship's going to make up for all of that. And it can't, because it's not the person's job. And that's often when you put that on the person, that repels them. And then you do experience the self-fulfilling prophecy of being left and second best and not good enough once again. So you're just, as Neville says, the past is still alive in you. So if you can make the inner child work the most important, if you can make the self-love work the most important, if you can, like you said in your words before, you choose you first. And I remember behaviors in me where I had plans with my girlfriends or something, and then my guy, or the guy I was interested in, would contact me at the last minute, and then I would lie to my girlfriends so I could go out with him. That just shows me, when I look back, I was so addicted to, well, it's love addiction. You're trying to get love from that person so that you can feel the absence of the abandonment.
Yeah.
And those types of behaviors, you know, I used to do that with my family. I used to do that with my friends, and I'd be lying on a regular basis to go and be with him, whoever he was at any given moment. And think that was going to fix the feeling I had inside. But obviously it didn't. And, you know, you end up hitting a lot of pain. You hit the abandonment, you hit the rejection, you hit the I'm not good enough. But in those days, I hadn't put two and two together that it came from childhood. And it's only over the years. And there's a group called Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, which is like Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's for people that have, some people have a sex addiction. They just try and have sex because that makes them feel loved. And then there's the other people like me who were addicted to trying to get love from people because of my childhood. So that actually helped me a lot to offload the emotion, because you'd be hearing other people's stories and you would often feel your own stuff. And it would be where you would really feel connected to the people in the room. So that was really helpful for me in those days. And, you know, I went to Codependence Anonymous for 25 years. And I went to Debtors Anonymous for the money. I went to Al-Anon because that's for the family and friends of people that are drinking or have an addiction. So I had many, many, many decades in 12-step fellowships. And that's where I first heard about inner child work. So all of that, it didn't matter which one I went to, the basis was often, the topic was to do the inner child work. And then, you know, went off on different tangents to deal with inner child work. And it was very helpful along the way. But really, at the end of the day, you're going from a childlike, childish state of, I want you to love me so I can feel better, to an adult state, which is love comes from within. I need to learn how to generate it. I'm going to get better at that skill. And then I'm going to connect to, as we always talk about in law of attraction, law of assumption circles, the God within. So it's remembering that we are made from God, source, infinite intelligence, the universe, whatever words people prefer, and to get better at connecting with that so that you spiritually mature on the topic of love. And then you're more at an adult level, then you have more adult to adult relationships with men or women, whoever it is that you prefer to date. So I think that progression over the years, I can't say I suffer deeply in this area anymore. Do I never have it? I can't say I never have it, no. But I can definitely say it has steadily reduced over the years of offloading that inner child pain. And I know I felt second best to people's jobs, people's parents, people's children, people's hobbies, people's friends. It's not necessarily feeling second best to another woman. So as soon as someone's attention is taken up with something else, in those days, I would go back into feeling abandoned. So, and the thing is, you'd go, people need to work, people need to see their families, people need to look after their children, people need time with their friends. My adult head understood that, but the heart and the child in me was in agony about that. So that was the work. And I can tell you and your viewers, Amy, as you do this work, you become more and more and more free. You become lighter because you're not holding in all this heavy stuff that it literally weighs you down physically.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel lighter and happier and freer now than I did in my 20s because I'm not carting all of that around with me like I did then. And my relationship is the best ever that I've ever had. He's an adult. He takes care of himself. He takes care of me. Not that I need taking care of, but we care for each other. Two givers that have cleared a lot of inner child stuff make for the best relationships. It works.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point, because when you get into a dating relationship or a relationship in general with none of this work being done, you know, this person isn't just dating you, they're dating your ego, they're dating your trauma, they're dating your fears, your wounds, they're dating all of it. And that's a lot.
It is.
Isn't it? That's a lot of responsibility to give to somebody.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had it before where I've taken, you know, tiny things as abandonment. Say, for example, if he'd gone out with his friends, even though consciously I knew that was okay and it was safe, inside I would be feeling like I got a chainsaw in my chest.
What about me?
Yeah, is he going to come back?
Yeah.
You know. And I couldn't really understand, even though consciously I you know, I was sitting there thinking, this isn't normal. This feeling isn't conducive to what's actually going on. It's not proportionate. Why am I having this overreaction to this happening? And it was that because I didn't know when Dad was coming home.
Yeah.
When Dad went to work, I didn't know when he was coming back, if he was coming back.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
it's those repeated little traumas when you're small that really do embed in the subconscious mind. So when that's triggered, essentially you are being possessed by your inner child. And,
Yes.
you are thinking the same thoughts, you feel the same feelings as you did back then. So obviously then it makes sense to go back and sort that out, because actually the benefits of it are so massive. You can make a massive dent in your subconscious mind by doing this work. And how nice is it to be in a relationship where you can relax and you can feel safe, and there isn't any of this sort of, oh my God, are they going to come back, or are they going to find somebody else, or
Yeah.
any of this. But when you're actually going back into the inner child, a lot of this trauma is because of your needs not being met. Trauma isn't just because of something that happened. A lot of it is what didn't happen that should have happened.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's a grief that goes along with that. And it is okay to grieve what you didn't get that you should have got. It is okay to grieve that, you weren't emotionally having your needs met by your parents. It
Yeah.
is, that's okay. But what we want to do to be able to heal that and move forward from that is identifying what those missing needs are,
Yes.
and how can I start to even a little bit meet those needs myself.
Yes. Yeah. And like you were saying, you, instead of looking to be chosen, you choose yourself and work out, how can I do that? I didn't ask you that when we were talking about this before we started recording. When you felt the I'm not chosen, and then you said, okay, I need to work on that myself, what things did you do to help yourself feel more chosen and feel more good enough in that moment?
And mainly it was the way I was speaking to myself.
Okay.
So I would observe this, when something triggered me, telling myself that I'm not good enough, me telling myself that, well, of course he's not going to choose me because of X, Y, and Z. I
Yeah.
really had to transform how I was talking to myself, and actually talking to myself in a way that was beneficial, that wasn't self-depleting, of, I am good enough and here's why, like physically have the evidence for here's what I have done that's good enough.
Yeah.
Here's why I'm good in a relationship.
Mm.
And in those moments where, I was glued to the phone looking for a text message, I had to catch myself then and think, right, okay, right now I'm not choosing me, because I'm
Yeah.
putting myself on hold. I'm putting everything on hold,
Yeah.
waiting for this person to get in touch. So what can I do right now to
Mm.
choose myself in this moment? Okay, well, I'm going to make myself a nice cup of tea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do a meditation. I'm going to go do some yoga. I'm going to do whatever, take a bath, whatever it is, to
Yeah.
actually spend time with me. It's
Nice.
okay that I'm feeling anxious. I can sit with my own anxiety.
Yes.
He is not going to make me feel less anxious. It's not
No.
there.
No.
This is not going to get this need met. But what will get this need met is actually spending time with myself and actually
Mm.
speaking to myself in a way that a friend would speak to me.
Yeah.
It's about catching when you feel triggered, because a lot of the times when we feel triggered, it's a missing need. So when I was glued to the phone
Yeah.
wanting this text message, I needed reassurance, I needed affirmation, I needed validation. And how can I give all those things to myself?
Yes. Yeah. That's really good. It's because we cause our anxiety from the thoughts that we have. We cause our anxiety from being well, we don't cause it because the trigger happens sometimes so fast because they're doing that. It's
Mm-hmm.
it just hits you quickly. So it's sometimes it's mentally caused, other times it's just flashback caused, as in from the past. So yeah, if you can come up here and use this to assist you rather than destroy you, which, that takes practice. It sounds easy, but it does.
Yeah.
You'll feel like you're failing miserably sometimes and thinking, I'm trying to fix this, but it's not getting me anywhere. But It's like riding a bike. One day you're riding and you stop falling and it just clicks, and then you start going. And it's the same with this. It will click. It will fall into place as you practice it.
Yeah. And I do get people saying, but I do choose me. But then on the other side, they're thinking, well, I'm sick of feeling this feeling. I don't want to sit with this feeling anymore. I'm going to take my mind off it. That
Yeah.
isn't choosing yourself.
No.
And yeah, sometimes the feelings that you're having are really uncomfortable. But if you sit with them instead of going to scroll on Facebook or anything like that, because what you're actually doing is you're just repeatedly abandoning yourself again and again and again.
Yes.
But when you can actually, drop any of the distraction and sit with the feeling, you will know and notice that the feeling passes quite quickly if you let it.
Yeah.
And it's not going to kill you. And it's not actually that painful. It is just sensations in the body that you're sitting with.
That's it.
And what I sort of tell my clients when they're coming to me and feeling like they're not chosen, and like you said, connecting to the God self within you, I think there's like a 1 in 400 million chance of you being here right now. So don't come to me and tell me you're not chosen.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And, the act of choosing yourself, it's a habit that, it's not that, I chose myself once, so now I'm chosen. It's a habit that you've got to choose. It's like if you go into a relationship, you observe that person's behavior and you see what their habits are. It's the same with you. You have to develop these habits over time of okay, these are my strategies, these are the healthy strategies that I'm going to use to actually choose myself. So what's a healthy strategy? Yoga is a healthy strategy. Spend half an hour with myself. If I check on the phone, I check on the phone. It's no big deal. I can put the phone down.
Yes.
I can do a meditation. I can go do some journaling and see what's coming up with me.
Yeah, go for a swim, go for a massage, go for a walk in nature. Just practice Ho'oponopono while you're walking. Just get out of the groove of he's not, I need. Give your mind something else to do. And then it's like it releases itself. The emotions pass through rather than they stay stuck. So yeah, it is good. It's nice to find different ways because different people have different ways of shifting it, and it's always nice to hear how someone else does it, because we've all got ways that work for us, with those of us that have been doing it for a while. But it's sometimes you'll learn something new from someone, you go, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that one, that's a good one.
So, and even when I was feeling triggered, even if, say, for example, we were in conflict, of course it was triggered that, oh my God, he's going to leave me. And me and a child would be like, ah, and I'd have to sort of say, no, we're going to be fine. It's fine.
But that's what happens, isn't it? It's like,
and you have to sort of learn not to act from that, because before I would go into codependent patterns and I would say whatever it took to end the argument, and not really say what I wanted to say, keep a lid on what I felt so that the other person would stay. And that's just not something I would do now. No, at all. No. And that was part of like a coping strategy that comes from the inner child, because to me the feeling of abandonment was a lot bigger than the need to feel heard and seen. So I would go into those codependent patterns and I would go above and beyond to meet that person's needs so that they'd stay. And so that I would have my need for predictability and stability met.
That's so it's like such a instant knee-jerk reaction, isn't it, that you go into overdrive to try, and it looks like you're giving, but you're giving because of fear, and you're trying to get underneath it, the need to get. So it's good when you can look back at those behaviors and go, oh, I'm so glad I don't do that anymore. But I do think now that we have phones, because before you wouldn't have a phone, if you felt stuff, you couldn't really get to someone so quickly as you can with a text or a,
it's instantaneous, isn't it?
Whereas before you had to sit with your uncomfortability because someone only had a home phone and you knew they were at work or whatever. So you had to, you couldn't offload your fear or your anxiety onto another person via your phone. So it's like, I think the phones in this way is it's made you indulge your bad behaviors more
It
until
enables you, doesn't it?
Yeah, you got to learn to put the phone down and really stay off it while you're in that state, and not be trying to offload it via text or via audio or ringing someone. You know, sometimes you think, how many times did I ring that person? They weren't answering. I was getting angry. So I rang again, I rang again, I rang again. And now they can see all that. Whereas when they had a home phone, they didn't know how many times you called them. So yeah, it makes it like you get exposed. Your bad behavior gets exposed more now with the technology that we have.
Yeah, and I can remember, you know, I mean, this is going back obviously years, but when I first met who would be my husband, I didn't have a mobile phone.
Yeah.
And we would go for like a week without speaking.
Yeah.
And we'd be fine.
Yes. I
Because
know.
that's just how things were.
Yeah. It's a funny thing, because as I was talking to people, you know, through working and coaching, the question that comes up a lot is, okay, well, how long is too long for someone to contact you? And for everybody, that's a different answer, I have found. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 2 days, sometimes it's a week. And it depends also on the level of relationship that you have, the answer to that question. So, yeah. And think to yourself, when you answer that question, why is it that for me? Why is it an hour? Why is it a day? Why is it a week? Why is it that I feel that I go into anxiety once that time stamp has passed? Why do I feel that that's too long? And
Yeah.
it's interesting to look at that question and ask yourself, where did I come up with that?
Yeah. And I watched a video actually on quite a famous psychologist. I can't remember her name off the top of my head though. And she was asked, what's the first thing that you should ask yourself before getting into a relationship? And she said, how are my own insecurities going to sabotage this relationship? And I think that's such a good question, because it forces you to be super honest with yourself. How are my own insecurities going to sabotage this relationship?
Yeah.
And it's a real learning curve. It's not a question people want to ask themselves, is it either? And, you know, some of this work is hard. It is difficult.
Yes.
And especially when you're dealing with something like the inner child, because it's such a large part of your psyche.
Yes.
And as children, we're just sponges, and, you know, we add 2 and 2 together and make 5 a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so doing the inner child work was really a game changer for me, because I could see where all of this was coming from. Because before, I knew it was there, I knew I was doing it, I just didn't know why.
Yes.
And because I didn't know why, I couldn't fix it. I couldn't stop doing it, because I
Yes.
didn't know what the underlying need was. You know, why do I create drama?
Yeah.
Why is drama normal to me? Why do I like drama?
Yeah.
And that was because I grew up in a chaotic household.
Yeah.
And it was normal to me. And I saw pieces being boring.
Yeah.
I wasn't stimulated enough by it. So I had to undo all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So that, you know, we can actually cohabit and feel safe around each other, because I was so unpredictable.
Yeah. Yeah. I was too. I think you and I have that in common, that the childhood stuff would make you, even, I would say I was even a bit volatile in those days. In emotionally creating, over contacting, having a little outburst, you don't do this, and you know, you, all of that stuff. And you look back and you go, wow, that's where you feel the humbleness and the humility, because you go, boy, oh boy, I used to do that a lot.
Yeah, and you see how it affects you, because, you know, I know in those moments, you know, I'd feel awful in the moment, but then it's like the hangover.
Yes.
Isn't it? The emotional hangover of doing it, and then having to sort of put it right, and then you're just repeating this painful cycle. That at the time you think is going to get you somewhere, but it's not. It might make you feel better in the moment, like your outburst may make you feel better in the moment to give them what for, or, you know, it's But, you know, I'm not saying not to express what your needs are or express if you've been upset, but there are ways of doing it that are going to get you the result that you want, and it isn't by screaming at somebody.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. You get better at not dumping your emotions on others because in your eyes, they made you feel it. But really, they didn't make you feel it. They just scratched open an old wound, which was there for a long time from the past. So, yeah, it's good when you realize all this and you get better at self-regulation,
Yes,
let's say. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I think the inner child, I mean, I've got quite a few videos on the inner child. So I'm hoping that people might feel a bit less resistant
Yeah.
to going there. And, you know, sometimes, I mean, I was resistant to it. I didn't want to do it. You know, I thought, well, you know, that's just a whole pile of crap that I don't want to look at.
Yeah.
And, you know, this person's telling me that I can just manifest that I'm already healed.
Yeah.
But that didn't work either. I tried everything to get out of this work.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you know, life events, or fortunately for me, actually, life
Yeah.
events do continue to lead you in that direction, do continue to show you that
Yes.
you need to look at this because
Mm.
this is actually in the way of what you want. It's in the way, and when you can heal it, and, you know, when all of you gets on board with the relationship that you want, and you can just see it happen, and it happens easily, and, you know, it's a bit more seamless, and you're not arguing all the time, and you feel generally happier as a baseline.
Yes.
So, you know, the benefits of doing this work far outweigh
Yeah.
the temporary
Mm.
discomfort.
Yeah. And I think the best time to do it, Amy, is when you are in a massive reaction to what that person just said or did. That's when you do the inner child work. It's like people say, well, how often should I do it? Well, life's going to kick that stuff up repeatedly, especially if you've got someone that you really love and you are having issues with them. That's the best time to do the work because your emotions are right up here on the surface and you can easily access them because they've been triggered off. They're not buried down below. Don't do inner child work when you're having a happy day. That's not the day to do it.
No, just let your inner child be happy for that day.
That's right. That's
But
right.
yeah, but your triggers absolutely will lead you to what it is that's really going on. Because I can remember once that, you know, my partner said to me, I had my hair up, and he made a comment that he preferred my hair down. And I felt really, really hurt by it. And I thought, well, this isn't a normal reaction because, you know, a secure person would have just said, oh, well, yeah, that's fine, but I've got it up today. But I didn't. I felt really, really criticized.
Yeah.
And I had to really go back and think, right, why am I reacting this way?
Yeah.
What is it about this situation? Well, it makes me feel like I'm not good enough, or I'm not perfect, or that I'm being criticized.
Yes.
You know, or that I'm embarrassing him because of how my hair was, or whatever. It's all of these things boil down to that part of you.
Yeah.
And the more that you can get familiar with that part of you, the more that you can connect it, the more that you can remember that that part is with you wherever you go. You cannot get rid of it. You cannot, you know, abandon it. It's there,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you're aware of it or not.
Yes. That's right.
So you might as well love it.
That's it.
And accept
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And that's the journey is acceptance and then learning to not let the inner child rule your external interaction with whoever it is that's triggered it off. It's like they didn't cause it, they can't cure it. It's yours.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And, you know, a lot of people go through relationships like I did unconsciously with the intention of healing that, you know, using relationships as a coping strategy to make me feel better.
That's it.
But now that I'm not doing that,
Yeah.
actually the relationship is so much better because the pressure's not there anymore. The neediness isn't there. The take isn't there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's good. You've got some inner child videos that people can watch and you know, learn a little bit more, because it's levels of learning, levels of understanding, levels of what more can I do. And you know, it's good for people to take it a step further if they're struggling today in a relationship. That's, I think, where the arrows point. Go and look at that work in more detail.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, another lovely discussion.
Always with you.
And hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
Yeah.
With another interesting topic.
Yes.
And the no sugarcoating attitude.
The no sugarcoating series. That's funny. Well, thanks for having me, Amy. It was an absolute pleasure, as always, to break down the mechanics of another topic in the law of attraction, law of assumption, under the umbrella of that.
Exactly. Okie dokie. Well, we'll wrap it up here then, and I shall see you very soon.
Thank you, Amy.
Bye.